Alright guys, I had to make this video today. So I get up this morning and I see that John Miller from I guess John Miller Show, the conservative comedian, he has his own show. He cracks me up. So he was talking about Jillian Michaels, and who's a health fitness expert, and she was on a show and she was talking about Lizzo, who's a pop star who's overweight, and she was really nice about it. She was like, I like her music, I think she's great, but let's not glorify obesity because it is, it's not healthy. It leads to health problems. It's like the #1 cause of bankruptcy, which she didn't say why, but I'm gonna add on why, because all of the health problems that people have that are preventable by like not becoming obese lands them in the hospital. They have hospital bills. They file for bankruptcy. They, spend a lot of food that is unnecessary because they're, it's kind of like an addiction for a lot of people. Now, of course, the crazy SJWs came after her and would call her fat phobic, and they're treating her like she's a Klan member or some shit. But what is really pissing me off is the fact that a lot of people are just kind of like genuflecting and capitulating to this crowd that, when they state the obvious that being obese is not healthy, then they get attacked like they're a bad person, right? I've lost 4 people so far. It seems like I've lost more, but off the top of my head, I can think of 4 people that I've lost that have died, basically. That's what I mean. Died from complications of being overweight. 2 of them in the same year. One was one of my really good friends. I mean, he's an amazing person. Like, this guy had no enemies. Died of diabetes. Or complications of diabetes, which came from his weight issues. Really sad, really devastating. Had so much ahead of him. I mean, did a lot of work in the fashion industry. It was just like, I don't know, the coolest person. When we were in high school, he was definitely very, very, very wise for his age. And I mean, so a lot of people were devastated, when he died. And I call his mom, and she was just like, it was really great to know how much he was loved. She was like, a lot of his friends have just been calling me and they've just been crying and crying and crying. And even to this day, like, I'll think about him and I want to text him and I can't. Anyway, and I'm like, oh yeah, he's dead. When somebody dies and you want to call them up and stuff. Anyway, I loved him. He was an amazing person. He died of complications of being overweight. Same thing with my cousin, and same thing, she was my mentor. She was like a second mom to me. She was more like my aunt, but she was, anyway, let me get full. I don't want to get full and stuff. But she died of complications of being overweight, and I have a cousin that sorry, I'm thinking about them. I do the same thing with my cousin that died. I think about stuff and I'm like, oh, I should call her. I'm like, wait, I can't. She's not on this physical plane anymore. I can't contact her. As she would say, that's how she would put it. They're both probably somewhere having a wonderful time and not having to worry about their obesity. But we are on Earth, we're missing them. And there's so many people that have died of complications of being overweight, that have health problems from complications of being overweight. And it's so interesting that I saw this video today because one of my girlfriends called me this morning, and she was talking about her sister, how she's having the same issue with her sister being morbidly obese. And she's like gorgeous. She's like supermodel, beautiful, gorgeous. And she takes care of herself, though. She goes to yoga, she works out, she eats healthy. She, is really like aware and conscious of what she puts into her body. And her sister's the opposite. She was just, she was venting to me about how frustrating that was for her. And then before she called me, I was thinking about my cousin. And I think I've told this story on the channel before, but I'll keep it brief again. But anyway, I have this cousin who is morbidly obese, whose mom died of complications from being morbidly obese, whose stepmom died of complications of being morbidly obese. Her other stepmom, who was also her aunt, which was my cousin that I was talking about, died of complications of being morbidly obese, okay? Her husband is morbidly obese. And she just had a daughter, which she's probably not going to teach her healthy eating habits and stuff. And her daughter is most likely going to be morbidly obese. Now, I've never said anything to her before that because it really wasn't any of my business. And in fact, which was funny, whenever there were family gatherings, and I've always had issues with food because of allergies, and I have endometriosis and asthma. So when I started to find out changing my diet would help those, then I would start to change my diet. Now, I know some of you are like, I hate you, bitch, but I've never had any weight issues with eating food, and I would eat a lot of food and I would eat unhealthy food. And I'll go into that later because some people, when they eat all of this unhealthy food, they don't express it in their obesity. They don't express it by gaining weight. Other things happen to their body. So nobody really gets away with eating unhealthy, okay? That's a whole nother video. But anyway, I would bring like salads or some like really groovy health dish that everybody can share. And that's what you do a lot of times when you're trying to change your diet and you have to go to like family gatherings or potlucks or something. You bring a really good dish that everybody can share. And a lot of times, you know, what happens is a lot of people will eat it and they're like, oh my God, that's so good. I can't believe that's healthy, right? And then, you know, sometimes some people might be like, oh, well, if healthy food could taste like that every day, then I would eat it, you know? So you kind of, that's what you have to do. And then you get full on that and you won't be tempted to eat all the other stuff. And all the other stuff tastes good, believe me, you know? But anyway, going back to my cousin. So she's morbidly obese and she goes on this whole rant about like fat pride and how people need to you know, respect the fat people. And first of all, there's a huge difference between making fun of fat people and then telling them that they are, you know, obese and they need to do something about it because it's going to complicate their health or lead to their death. Those are two like extremely different things, okay? So I respectfully went on the thread and I was like, you know, it's not the quality of food or the quantity of food, it's the quality. So I was basically saying that I'm not trying to say that she eats a lot, which she does because I've seen her eat, but I think that, you know, I wanted to emphasize the chemicals in the food and all this other stuff that make it harder for people to lose weight, that, you know, throw your hormones and your metabolism off, that create other complications in your cells and all this other stuff. And I was talking about that, and I also posted some documentaries. What did I do that for? Now I look back on, I'm like, of course she wasn't gonna be like, oh, okay, after she just, you know, she's committed to being overweight and being a victim about it, okay? So we going through this whole thing, and then she makes up this lie that I hate fat people and I make fun of fat people. And I was just like, bitch, there's no evidence of me ever doing that. Because first of all, I don't even like fat movies that make fun of fat people. I don't get offended by them. I just don't think it's funny. And my friends that know me, like, know this about me, that like they were like, let's see like a fat movie. Even like the Nutty Professor, I was like it was interesting to see him play Eddie Murphy play all those characters. It was really cool, but I don't revel in fat jokes or people getting made fun of because of fat, because I know there's a lot of shame, there's a lot of emotion attached to that. And I have a lot of friends that struggle with that. Now, with that said, it's so funny, a lot of friends that like those movies happen to be overweight. So I don't know, it's this kind of like weird disconnect. A lot of my friends that like, you know, they're like, they were the first people to make fun of fat people are fat themselves, or have been fat themselves. And let's get real. A lot of the people that hate fat people the most, that are victim about being fat, are the ones that used to be fat and have worked their ass off to lose the weight. Okay, let's be real about that. Because skinny people, we got other problems. We got skinny people problems. We got other problems. We're not really, you know, I don't know. Anyway, so we go and she makes fun of, she's making up this lie about me making fun of fat people, and she blocked me. I'm not allowed to see her newborn baby anymore. She, you know, I basically been exiled from her family, which is like, I don't really know what to say. It's like almost like a drug addiction that these people have. And if you think about it, I know a few years ago, it was either like Wired or Scientific American came out with an article talking about the chemicals in junk food and how they're or as addictive as heroin. So because of my struggles with food, I definitely understand food addiction because I've dealt with that. Now, I don't understand what it's like to like sit on an airplane and not be able to fit, or go places and not be able to fit, or have people stare at you or make fun of you because you're overweight, or just be completely ignored and invisible because you're overweight. There's a lot of psychological trauma that comes with being overweight, and I get that. And there's also trauma that maybe has led up to the person being overweight because maybe they were like sexually or physically abused when they were younger, or bullied, or some kind of trauma, and they hide their feelings by eating, but like they emotionally eat, they overeat. So there's all this stuff that needs to be addressed around obesity that can't even be addressed because you can't even tell the person that they're overweight without being attacked. It's fucking bullshit. And then this is the same week, so this is, I'm like, I have to comment on this. I have to make this video. My friend 2 days ago was just telling me that he used to be overweight. It just came up, right? And he was like, I was like, well, why? I'm always curious to know why people like make the decision to lose weight, because obviously I can tell people stuff, but I'm a skinny bitch. Like, people aren't gonna listen to me. They're like, yeah, right, skinny bitch. Like, what the fuck do you know? You don't know shit. So it's always good when there's somebody else that's overweight and they've been able to overcome their obesity. If they have a story, those are the people that are going to inspire the other people, not people like me. Okay, anyway, even though I know what to physically do, but I don't know the motion or the draw. Like, I don't know what that's like, so I can't really relate to those people. Like, okay, anyway, so I was talking to my friend. He was like, I used to be overweight. I was like, oh my God, how, like, why did you change? And he says, he's like, I almost died. I was like, are you serious? He was like, yeah, I had a heart attack and I was at I was rushed to the hospital, and he was like, oh my God, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. This is how I'm going to go out. And then he said the doctor comes in and the doctor's like, hey man, you're having a bad day, aren't you? He's like, no fucking shit, I'm having a bad day. And then, you know, when they got him stabilized and stuff, the doctor's like, look, you know, you might want to consider losing some weight. And my friend's like, are you saying that I'm fat? And the doctor's like, yeah, that's saying you're fat. And we laughed about it because now he's fine, and he knew deep down that he needed to lose the weight, and he knew why. He had said he had this job where they just had snacks all the time, and healthy snacks all the time. And you know, he has a good head on his shoulder. He has a good sense of humor about it. But do you know what really pissed me off is the fact that the doctor had to tiptoe around telling him what, it's like something, just trying to crawl in some window. The doctor had to tiptoe around the fact that he had to tell him to lose weight to save his own life. Like, this shit is getting ridiculous, okay? Ridiculous, okay? Now, Hollywood has this thing where they glorify the women that are super thin, and I think that's very unhealthy too. I wasn't down with that whole, like, years ago they had this whole, like, oh, my nose is itching. I was trying to, okay. They had this whole, like, heroin look where the models were, like, super skinny, and then they get, like, the black eye makeup and put around their eyes and stuff like that. I'm like, is this Halloween? Like, what is it? What's going on? They look like zombies. It was very morbid looking. It was very disturbing. But the standard for that is you know, basically, I would say I'm not super tall enough to be like a runway model. I don't have the face for it anyway, but the standard is to be somebody as thin as I am or thinner. And from what I've done, like research I've done, that's only 3% of women. So that's not realistic, right? Women, men, everybody comes in all shapes and sizes. I have a friend that's gorgeous. She's like a plus size model. She's like 6 foot, long hair, blonde hair. She's like thick and just very confident and beautiful. You know, it's a shame that they don't really represent women of different sizes. You can be like thick or not, like bone skinny, and still be beautiful and healthy. She's pretty healthy. She's very conscious about what she eats and what she puts into her body and stuff. She's had her weight struggles too, but she's not like, I wouldn't say that she's obese. But when you are, there's a difference, right? People like the BMI when you're out of balance with your weight, and like and as proportionate to your height. There's physics involved. It puts stress on your other organs, and it puts everything out of whack, and it throws your metabolism, and it makes your body run differently. So then you start to develop all of these health disorders. It's science. It's science, dudes. It's simple science, okay? But people are denying that. And then you have the whole like food industry that I believe is in collusion with all of the advertising industry and everything, because, it behooves people to kind of like shame other people for talking about it, because they don't want people to recognize the problem and to like, stop eating the Twinkies, stop eating the Reese's peanut butter cups, stop eating the box of Krispy Kremes, stop eating all of that, because it's going to put them out of business, right? You look at the food pyramid, and now, it's coming out how that was a bunch of bullshit, and now, but it benefited the dairy industry, and it benefited like grains and all this other shit, because they don't want people to be able to grow food, and like the vegetables and stuff are at the top, and the bread and stuff is at the bottom of the pyramid when it should be flipped, okay? But, if you can grow your own food, then, how are you profitable to that industry, right? And on top of that, it's like this weird dichotomy where they have this standard of being really bone crazy thin, which if that's not your body structure, that's going to be impossible for you to meet. And then the other side of glorifying obesity, which gets people to be in denial of their problems. So, and not fixing it. And then it also serves the the pharmaceutical industry, because all of these autoimmune diseases, they put, or these diseases that come with obesity, put, diabetes, like heart disease, mental illness, all this other stuff, chemical imbalance, they put them on drugs. So there's not a financial incentive to get people to lose weight, and it's supported by people that come. It's just, same thing. I gotta talk about vaccines. That's what I do. Okay. The kind of the same mentality behind the whole vaccine racket. This whole obesity shit is a racket, because they don't want people, talking about losing weight. And then because once people start being open about it, then they can fix it, right? And somebody sees somebody else lose weight, and they get inspired, and then they want to lose weight, and the chain, it continues. And as people start thinking about health, and then people start seeing that the pharmaceutical industry is bullshit, and and that the GMOs are bullshit, right? You go to China now and other countries that are letting all these fast food places into their culture. Now they're having trouble with obesity, right? So it's not like it's like rocket science. You go to these countries where they don't have all this fast food stuff, obesity is not a problem, right? I had a friend that just went to France, and he was talking about how he can eat all this other stuff, and it was healthier, like cheese and bread and stuff. It's processed differently. They don't have a lot of junk food. They eat more they eat less processed food, and that has a huge bearing on their culture, right? When I went to England, my mom commented, because she works at Universal Studios, so she sees a lot of obese people all the time, and she was like, there are not a lot of obese people here. I don't know, this is crazy, right? So, and in Japan doesn't even play that shit, because they don't got a lot of space anyway. I know they have this rule that companies, you get measured, I think they measure your waistline, and if you're over a certain amount, they fine you. So they're not even playing. This is why people think America is crazy. This is crazy, right? You're gonna restructure your buses and all your automotive transportation to fit somebody that, to fit people that are overweight, or are you gonna encourage the person to lose weight? It's not there needs to be more support, of course. There needs to be, an honest conversation that needs to be had about this. And it's and I know there's some people that are like, you're a skinny bitch, I can eat you for a snack. Well, you know what? You'd have to catch me first. How about that? Okay. But then you can't, because you're out of shape. So, Patriot Nurse a few years ago. She did a really good video. If anybody can find that video, please put in this in the comment section. But she did this really good video about the Illuminati and the New World Order and stuff, and how those people are gonna go out first. The people with like the autoimmune diseases, the people that are like overweight. And she's right. As mean as you might think it sounds, she's right, because they're not going to be physically in shape to fight. And this is what they want too. They want people that are dumbed down, that are physically, you know, not in shape, that can't mentally think right, because they're easily conquerable. So this is definitely a conspiracy. This is truth or talk. All right, you know, I gotta go on the conspiracy tip. And then they have Hollywood chiming in with, you know, they're dangling this carrot in front of women's faces and making it hard, you know, think they have to achieve this impossible standard of beauty in order to be beautiful. And then you have the other side, when people like Jillian Michaels, who's gorgeous and works hard at it, and works hard at being in shape, when she makes a very common sense comment on it, she gets attacked. So then people don't want to speak up because they're afraid of getting attacked. I would tell you, don't come at me with that fucking fat pride bullshit and be like, oh my God, fat pride, you can be fat and healthy. No, you can't. No, you can't. You can be skinny and be unhealthy. And you can be fat, but if you're fat, you're not healthy. Like, that's an oxymoron, okay? So, anyway, let me know your thoughts. I guess that's it. I'm Verstine, reporting for Truth or Talk. I keep forgetting. I have to say my name in the videos. I keep forgetting to say my name. But anyway, guys, love you guys. Peace, truth, and love. Bye-bye. Mwah.